Well. I am using the outro music, intro for the podcast. How you guys doing? I'm your host, Earnest EJ Christian. You joining us on a Sunday afternoon. Football starts. Look at us in. You'll be dropping on your feeds on Monday morning, first thing at midnight. But before we get to that, I cannot believe, first off, that we are. Well, I am, should I say, a week removed from my vacation in New York. They say time is not time is a concept, and it truly is. But I can't believe we've already 8 days past the trip. And I wish I can go back. I was telling the wife last night. We were talking last night before we went to bed, and then I was telling her I wish we can go back to last week. To where we were. Like I had the time of my life, and that is going to be today's rant, today's unfiltered rant for this week, because I think after this trip, and I think the seeds were planted probably as a child, and probably even, but more so the last couple of years. But I think now, with age and maturity, I think your boy Earnest EJ Christian is a Broadway guy. Yes. So I told you guys I reviewed the trip last week on the show, and I told you guys that one of the things we went up there to see the purpose of the trip. The purpose of the trip last week was to go to a concert. Guys, I'm a music head, music diehard. We went to see System of a Down perform with Korn last Thursday at MetLife Stadium. But we also, in addition to going to that concert, which that was obviously the main course of the whole trip. But in addition to that, we also made a lot of plans to other things. One of the things we did, was we went to a Broadway show. We went to see The Book of Mormon. And I told you guys in the show that was a phenomenal play. I've heard about it for years. And by the way, one error I have to clear up here real quick. On that same show last week, when I reviewed my trip, rather, I had said that play was written by Mike Judge. I was wrong about that, actually. It was actually written by Trey Parker and I think Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. Mike Judge is the creator of Beavis and Butthead and Office Space. I thought he wrote the play. I got that totally wrong. It was Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So I apologize to one for the error there. So if you heard that episode and you managed to hear that's fake news on my end. Okay, it was not Mike Judge. It was Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Anyway, so I love that play. And one of the things I've come to realize too, also as I got older, is I've always liked musicals. To be honest with you, I've always liked it because growing up as a kid, my favorite movies growing up were actually musicals. But now, granted, I never subconsciously thought of them as musicals. I just saw them as movies. Like, so growing up, and to this day, my favorite movies, some of my favorite movies all the time, Wizard of Oz. I'm still a massive fan of Wizard of Oz. Annie, loved Annie as a kid. And those films are considered musicals. But as a kid, you're not thinking that way. You just think, oh, it's a great movie it's a great movie that has music in it and musical themes in it. But you never consider them musicals. At least I didn't consider them musicals at the time. But they're musicals. They really are. And I've never been anti-music. For the record, I've never been anti-musicals, anti-Broadway. I've always respected that kind of art anyway. But I've never gone on my way to go watch them. What turned me in the last 5 years was seeing the Hamilton musical. Now Hamilton came out in 2016, but my wife and I didn't see it until it came on Disney Plus in 2020, and I fell in love with it immediately because it took a lot of the things I enjoy very much. So in art, number one, the musical rather, is about Alexander Hamilton. So that's right. The boom, check mark. Then it's a hip hop musical too, also. So they infuse, not just the musical, they infuse hip hop. Lin-Manuel Miranda did a phenomenal job of that. In fact, my wife and I went to see it. They did this weekend. They did the 10-year anniversary of since the play And my wife and I went to go see it at the theaters with the family. We didn't stay the entire time because the kids started acting up a little bit, but here and there. That was what triggered my love for this genre. This year, I also went to see. I told you guys back in April, I went to see MJ the musical, the Michael Jackson musical. Now, granted, even if I wasn't a musical guy, I would go see it anyway because it's Michael Jackson. You guys know I'm a massive, massive, massive fan of Michael Jackson. So that was going to happen no matter what. But to see the interpretation of how they interpret his life and his performances on that through that was, to me, it was in a lot of ways life changing too. One of the things in musical I always respected, and I do respect more than actual actors, is that when you do the movie, for example, and look, I love I'm a movie guy, I love movies, but you can modify the you can edit things, you can produce it to your, it's all one time. Musicals, you're there, okay, and people who do musicals and Broadway than I do people who actually act in movies and even TV shows, because what they're doing, the error in doing a musical play and a Broadway play is it's not even something none. It's 0-0. Like there's no margin of error. If you fuck up on, do a 3 o'clock show and you fuck up on a 3 o'clock show, that's just it. You fucked up and that's it. So the margin of error is 0. Does not exist. There's no margin of error because you screw up, you screw up. And I think the fact that there's the live feel too also. Now granted, there are musicals that also they do sometimes have playback, lip syncing. Even then though, it's still so live anyway. Respect it. And I think now, I was telling my wife, because I told her, like, I want to make a priority now every year. And granted, I'm born in New York, so it's not like I've never been before. And I'm born there. I can't say I was raised there. I lived there since I was 9, and I've gone back so often, in since then. But I told my wife the other day, I said, listen, I want to make it a priority where every year, whether it's me and her or myself, and a friend or my brothers, or whatever, make it a priority where I am going to New York every single year. And for me, it's easy because I can find many things to do in New York for myself personally. I'm a big sports fan, so obviously I can go to a Giants game. I'm a Giants fan. MetLife Stadium, while it's in New Jersey, is literally 3 miles away from the city. I can go to a Mets game. I'm a diehard Mets fan. I'm wearing the jersey right now, the sweater right now, the hoodie. Go to Queens, go to Mets game. I even told her, I would go to a Broadway musical. There's rumors now that Lin-Manuel Miranda's is putting together a possible musical for the Warriors movie. Now they put out the soundtrack last year, which we're finding out now was technically only a musical adaptation of the movie that came out back in 1979. But what's happening now is that there's been so much great feedback of the musical adaptation through the soundtrack that now they're discussing doing a possible musical, which I imagine will be on Broadway, in the near future. Which, and my wife and I already said, if that does happen, we are going to that play. We're going, without question. And there were a lot of things we did in New York also last week too that I look back and look, I had a phenomenal time. We were in the group also too, so we had a lot of things we were trying to share. But had I had more time to myself, her and I had more time to ourselves, we would probably done one more musical. There's a Chicago musical, which I don't mind seeing. There's the one on Betty Boop called Boop. We originally had planned on seeing. There's MJ musical in New York, which I wouldn't mind seeing again, but it's coming down here West Palm Beach again in February. There's Lion King musicals as well. There's a lot of other things, the musicals and Broadway things that I would not mind seeing. I just like I love more than anything else the interpretation of the art, of that art. Because again, remember too, also before movies came a thing, back in the 1700s and whatnot, that was the way that was your entertainment. You know what I'm saying? So I think I am now in a place, and my wife, who was a massive Broadway musicals girl, I'm now, look, she's on a level, of course, but I think she's come to a place now where she realizes now that I'm now a Broadway guy. Now she comes to me for ideas like, hey, do you want to see this in a musical? I go, and I'm almost gonna say yes. Like, for example, now The Wiz is coming here next month. which I want to go see here in West Palm Beach. Here's the problem: the tickets are expensive. Like I think the lowest ticket I sold was like $220 a person, and we used to spend thousands of dollars in New York. I'm not sure if I want to spend $200 in for the Wiz. Plus, I got all the concerts going to the next couple months. But the fact that I'm even considering doing this is a big win. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am a Broadway guy. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Anyway, that's this week's Unfiltered episode. I am Broadway guy. I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Check out all the podcasts this week. And until we meet and talk again, we will talk soon. Goodbye. God bless. And